Welcome. Welcome, welcome. Hello. Buenas tardes, bonjour, wherever you are, whenever you are. We are so glad to see you. Welcome to the PEN International Women's Writers Committee Global Poetry Zoom, staying in touch, sharing our stories, staying connected through poetry. We are just ecstatic that you have joined us today for another of our absolutely delicious poetry Zooms. About a year ago, the PEN International Women's Writers Committee began curating and hosting our poetry Zooms to hold us solid in community and make a space and time for the diverse and skilled and passionate voices of our creative community to be heard. Wherever we are, the planet, our common home, is turning to a new season. And whether you are entering your fall or spring, whether it's day for you or night, we can stand together at this window of the new and be together in poetry and solidarity, empowering poetry voices to be lifted in celebration, in grief, and in longing, sharing what is on our minds and in our hearts, and staying in touch across miles and months. So we invite you to sit back, relax, certainly send us comments in the Q&A or the chat, which will be found at the bottom of your screen. And we thank you for joining us and welcome you. For all our guests, we at PEN have a powerful tradition of the empty chair. We begin our gatherings and our celebrations with an act of remembrance. We remember that we who are free are privileged to be free, free to write, to dream, and publish, and that we must never take that for granted. And in all our PEN events, we remember and honor writers who do not have those privileges. A writer in prison, a journalist that's been disappeared, and in too many countries, a journalist murdered for the very act of writing truth to power. And in this case, we have all the journalists of a war-torn country, all of whom need our support. And today, our empty chair honors and asks for your support for the women journalists of Afghanistan. We have all of us, been watching brokenhearted as Afghanistan faces the loss of hard-won freedoms, particularly for women's rights, for freedom of speech and expression, and for press freedom. The Journalists for Afghanistan have organized a fundraiser in conjunction with members of the Network of Women in Media from India to help raise funds for the intrepid women journalists still telling their stories amidst all odds. The Associated Press has generously allowed the use of images from their Afghanistan coverage. On your screen is one of the images that is for sale. This collection brings together photographs by some of the AP's bravest and most talented visual journalists. Here is another of one of their images. At a time of unimaginable societal and political upheavals in Afghanistan, as its people face uncertain and frightening future, these images invite us to reflect on the power of resilience and courage in tumultuous times. All proceeds from the sale of these prints will go towards helping women journalists in Afghanistan, whether it is to find safe houses, to help them evacuate, to rebuild small media startups, or to settle in new countries and keep finding ways to continue telling their stories in their own voices. We're going to put the website to view and purchase these images in the chat, along with the email for the journalists of Afghanistan. We encourage you, our poets and our audience, to purchase one of these gorgeous prints and know that you are personally helping to support the women journalists of Afghanistan. And now we are blessed to see and hear from our pen poets. Let's share some poetry. Quite properly, and really very, very, very fortunately, we open our gathering today with Sameh Hamed. By profession, a physician, Sameh is a poet, a writer, visual artist, TV director, melody composer, and lyricist with over 40 published books. An award winner many times over, Sameh is the president of Afghanistan Pen. Welcome, Sameh.
For the last American fighter in Afghanistan, goodbye, General. Greet your daughter from the guards of Kabul. Tell her about the colorful dance of kites as if they were the earrings of the sky. Tell her about the taste of Afghan food, which tastes like sweet adventures. Tell all mirrors or aquariums for fish that smile with children's lips. Don't tell the truth. Don't say that you shot dreams. Don't say that you have built new graves for human rights in children. Don't tell any facts about USA and Afghanistan. Let the diplomats wipe the blood from the roads with their tongues. Don't tell children anything about the fall of democracy from the plane, about pushing emotion into a hole full of rotten water, about the shouts you made to keep the children away. American children will be scared and they will doubt your humanity. Just say, our war is over. Let's play a new game. Thank you.
Thank you, Sameh, for writing this. That is truly news that stays news. Thank you for showing us the earrings of the sky in Afghanistan and sharing the hard truths and also your passion for your country. This is poetry of deep witness, and we're very, very privileged to hear it. Oh, now it is a great joy to introduce our very own Salil Tripathi, born in India, residing in New York. He has been a very important, beloved, and just fantastically proactive chair of the PEN, of the PEN International Writers and Prison Committee. And he is a member of PEN American Center and English PEN. Salil writes poetry and prose in Gujarati and English, and, well, he'll tell you all about it. Welcome, Salil.
Thank you. The poem I'm going to read is in 6 languages of various amounts of fluency. So pardon me for doing that. A poem in 6 languages. Should I write this poem in a language with functional words? કે એ ભાષામાં લખું જેમાં બોલ્યો હું મારો પહેલો શબ્દ? અગર હિન્દી में लिख दूं तो बन जाऊं मैं अति लब्ध. પણ મરાઠી જર્મી બોલ્લો તત્તી હોનાર কিতি মুগ্ধ. আমার আফসোস হচ্ছে কি আমার প্রথম ভাষা বাংলা নয়, সে ভাষা আমি বেশ ভালোবাসি. Parce que cette langue très élégante ce n'est pas bourgeoisie. Wide reach has its uses, for they understand you from sea to shining sea. પણ મારી બોલી બધે બોલાય. હોબોકન ને હેરો, ડર્બન ने दुबई, लेस्टर ने कराची. इतने विशाल वैविध्य को क्यों हम कर दे संकुचित? क्या है ऐसी जरूरत? दुनिया कितनी कंटाळवाणी वाटेल जब प्रत्येक जण एक ज भाषेत बोलत. नानोत्तम अने सौंदर्य. प्रत्येक शब्द और गल्पो थेके होय छे गुरुत्व. Je regrette beaucoup le temps qui passait. Je ne peux pas étudier plus vite. How sad to speak मात्र एक भाषा. कैसी तन्हाई, कशी ही शून्यता. निजे के कारागार थे के मुक्ति दिन, célébrer, se réjouir de la liberté. I had translated the whole thing in English, which I turn to now. Should I write this poem in a language with functional words, or in the language in which I spoke my very first words? If I write in Hindi, then I will be more accessible. But if I speak in Marathi, will she not find me more desirable? My regret is that Bangla is not my first language. I love it a lot because it is so elegant, and for the bourgeoisie alone, it is not. Wide reach has its uses, for they understand you from sea to shining sea. But my language is spoken everywhere. Hoboken and Harrow, Durban and Dubai, Leicester and Karachi. Why circumscribe our diversities? What's the need? Why narrow the reach? How boring will the world be if everyone had only one kind of speech? Diversity means beauty. Each word, each story matters. I regret the passage of time that I couldn't study faster. How sad to speak only one language. What emptiness. How lonely. Free yourself from this prison. Celebrate and rejoice in liberty. Thank you.
Each story matters. Those are my favorite words of the moment. Salil, you delight, inspire, and teach us. And I'm completely with you. What wouldn't I give to be able to study faster? And I hope that next year, when we do this, I will have another language. Wonderful. Now I get to introduce someone that we've been very, very blessed to have with us before. Again, we get to welcome Black Earth Institute fellow and editor, Pamela Yushuk, a member of PEN America. She has 7 published collection of poems, including Crazy Love, an American Book Award winner, Blood Flower, and her forthcoming, her new book, Refugee, is out in May 2022 from Red Hen Press in Los Angeles. And I'm so happy to say, welcome, Pam.
Weather change for Terry Harvey. Wind slithers through oleander leaves like schools of salmon ghosts, the iced relics of steelhead fins, or silver lining rainbow trout cheeks I held long ago as a girl. Sky chills even hidden scars. The voices of desert birds are far away water trickling over granite. Call out the colors of clean air, sweet, filling the cancered lungs of my brother in the last veterans hospice bed. Call clean air for the lungs of women in Damascus or Kabul, who secretly perm the hair of other women in their homes, while husbands cloister, click beads, tongues lashing from tight mouths, ignoring the slight breeze of words lilted by wives, smothered by centuries of swaddling cloth, by the slavery and safety of veils. Call sweet air, fresh air for the mother bent into worry's hook, air for the premature baby whose moth-wing lungs struggle for flight in a neonatal unit across town, air for the homeless man wandering paved drives in our foothills community, still asleep. His shoulders drenched by a day pack, so grimy its history is the cruelty of char. Air for the pit bull snoring in a treeless yard, chained to a stake, broiling in desert sun, while his teen owner, a new father, bags meth in his mother's bathroom. Air for a child's hands closing on the first baseball of her life, for the proton in the eye of the observer that changes what a woman sees as love halfway across the globe. Air for all of us, breathing memory's luminous mind, the way quietly it says goodbye. From a river we will wade long after we say goodbye. Desert Obad, months now the rare jaguarundi has not crossed evening's path to the arroyo splitting our neighborhood. We miss his fluid mahogany leap between Ocotillo and Creosote, the way it snaps the landscape alive, then disappears complete, proving indeed you can never twice step into the same stream. Each morning we resist news reports dropping like cyanide into coffee. Wait till after breakfast to digest new atrocities, stripping every humanitarian bone from the exquisite corpse of our national conscience. Before dawn, the dogs bolt from the kitchen door, scatter finches, cactus wren, desert hare they can't begin to catch in their snapping jaws. Relentless sun rises in its catacomb of light. The coffee maker quarrels with leftover crumbs on the counter while the homeless begin to wake in the bottom of the wash behind our house. We are just as culpable as the White House, looking away from the disheveled man, sunburned to char and jerking in his bones as he walks the berm of rush hour on Oracle Road, looking instead for the jaguarundi's return, avoiding thorns turned by sunrise, the color of our common blood. Thank you.
Zowie, look at the comments. These poems sing our places so vividly back for us. You snap the landscape alive. These are beautiful, lush, lyrical images, and yet unafraid to take on climate and politics while staying rooted in rich particular. What a gift. Thanks, Tim. And now coming to us today from Malawi Pen, Wezimsukwa Panji, having graduated with a BA in Humanities as a literature major, Wezi is a literary theorist who has gone towards her creativity, editing, and translations from a foreign language to her mother language and vice versa. Her work has been anthologized in several books, and she has edited many, many, many other writers. Welcome, Wezi.
The quest. No one dared to look back as we walked on, crushing all that stood our way. Our boots urged us on and on to a land that was promised us. We had had enough of our ancestors' land. It was daunting and haunting and taunting. Time had come for us to take up new space, to become our own ancestors and create our own paths. As we walked on, time stopped for us. Day and night paved way. There was no going back. There was no stopping for anything. Like an army geared for war, we moved on. Our boots were the most determined as we pursued our new land, that we become our own ancestors and create our own paths. The brave joined in, the wise gave way, none of us gave up, for our cause had been set. Our boots urged us on and on and on to take up our space, become our own ancestors, and create our own paths. Shewa, adali watu. Chinkukuluzi ichi ndicho taonera ife. Uyuyu adali watu, wakwatu. Adali wadotilatu lenileni, mbadwa yeni yatu. Adayima pagome nalengeza, kuti kuyela, kudayeladi kuti mbee, dzuwa nalo lidali wali, kutenga mphamvu zake mlengalengamo, kuli kukonzekera tsiku la tsopano, nyimbo ya tsopano. Pakumva nyimboyi, dziko lidamwetulira, mthungululu zidamasulidwa, kugoli lomangidwira izo. Miyendo nayo idamasuka, ndipo maso athu adapenya, napenyetsetsa. Kunja kudali kutawaladi, kunja kudali kutacha, zonse za mdima zidafika pambalambanda, kamwala ndende lidameza onse, wokonda mdima momo, otasa mdima momo, iye atangolengeza kuti kuyera. Koma zina zikati zichitike, kunja kuja kwa danso, watu uja wagona, watu uja wapita, misozi ndiye mboni ya onse, chiwongolero cha kukhumudwa kwathu, ndi muoni wa kusamvetsa. Uyuyu adali watu, uyuyu adali wakwatu, adali wadotilatu. Thank you very much.
Oh, what a gift to hear your language. What a gift. Oh, Wazy, thank you so much. This poem creates new paths in our listening, in our understanding, the music of the passionate heartbeat of the rhythm of the repetition in that poem. And you're right, no going back. Your words have moved us. Wonderful. All right, onward. Member of San Miguel Pen, San Miguel Allende Pen, my center, yay, San Miguel Pen, and the Centre Québécois du Pen, poet, performer, and visual artist, another multilingual person, Ray Marie Taylor, lives and writes among the good people and green pastures of the Quebec countryside. Welcome, Ray Marie.
What I can tell you is I've grappled with the border. This one here, north, the 49th parallel, America. Oh dear. Closed, now opening, still a place of complications and viral confusion. My whole family on the other side. I ache so for them. On this side, I've carried my writings through icy winters and the greenest summers, 50 some, among joyful friendships and the society's painful micro and macro exclusions. A landed immigrant, une immigrante reçue. Privately, in urban isolation, I've released the long grief over the loss of my country, its air, light, and ground of home, where I used to walk, spirited, vigorous, in Canyon de Chelly, among wind ripples, swirling rock, and rain, sprightly spring lambs, and Russian olive, heady with perfume, mesa walls cut out, the sky, a raven escorts its own shadow along the cliff. Now I walk to the barn, 4 large birds careening above, 2 playing together like ravens, but they are not ravens. They're familiar though, turkey vultures, flying over and beyond the cows, lying calmly in the pasture, chewing their cud. There is a kind of silence in our cells where the real voice lurks, the cells that in me know dust, sun, mountain lion, and stream, the Pueblo corn and buffalo dances. This voice embraces now this green pasture and its people at twilight, white clouds meandering, the sky a vast sweep of rose, the meadow well watered, July green. I have found a home on this side, yet I still feel close to that other border, South Mexico, where, yes, I know you are thinking of it too. We are thinking of that border far south of here, walled and policed, patrolled, where so much suffering waits in hope. Hope for the children, oh my God, my country's failures there and now in Afghanistan. People's bellies ache and hands are desperate, reaching for welcome. 3 borders, planetary anguish. Still, here, hands offer squash, corn, and beans, tomatoes, basil, and flowers. Still, my orchid blooms. Thank you.
Beloved grappler. I know everyone felt that poem. Everyone in the room and in the audience felt that poem and smelled, and all of us who know this, the heady perfume of Russian olives, or see the raven escorting its shadow along a cliff. This is a voice that reminds us of planetary anguish while celebrating the hope that lives ever in our planetary beauty. Wonderful. Next, coming to us from Penn, India, Bina Sakar Elias is an award-winning poet, fiction writer, art curator, and founder, editor, designer, and publisher of International Galerie, the Global Arts and Ideas Journal, and she has been doing this since 1997. Her poems have been translated into French, Spanish, Greek, Chinese, Arabic, and Urdu, and she's the author of 6 books of poems. Welcome, Bina.
Thank you. Can you hear me?
Yes.
I'll begin with a poem for the late poet Agha Shahid Ali, and it's also for all of you. Peace. Peace. Have we met? Do I know you? Are you the proverbial lull before the storm? Are you the virgin before the rape? Silence before the scream? Are you a bird song on a tranquil morning, singing softly before you transmute into a screeching hawk? Are you the rationale of dialectics before strident speeches of fascists, bigots, and unreason tear our sanity apart? Are you grandma's tales of honey and pickles, of halcyon days before you are stolen from innocuous jars and mutated into a narrative of war? Are you idle chemicals before you catalyze into deadly weapons of mass destruction? Are you a placid drone morphing into a menacing toy for the world's warmongers? Are you the chrysalis concealing and nurturing seeds of benign faith and flowers that proliferate, that stealthily become venomous weeds of xenophobic hate? Are you paradise in Kashmir before it becomes hell? A flaming playground for scheming politicians? Are you a child waking to life in Afghanistan or Syria before a bomb bludgeons you and your village? Are you the wings of dreams before you are burnt so you don't fly? Peace, have we met? Do I know you? Are you the desolation called peace? Thank you. There's one small poem titled 2020-2021, What We're Living Now. They tell me 2020 is a portal for your learning. Learn from the stolen lives. Learn from our abuse of nature. Learn from the factory of lies. Learn from the ash of despair. So I step into 2021 with my learning, opening doors to unlearning, opening doors to humanity, opening windows to compassion, opening gates to the garden of truth, opening wounds to heal and repair. Each breath we breathe, let's unlearn, let's care, for we are mere molecules between here and there, between this moment and eternity, opening a keyhole to epiphany. Thank you.
Yes, yes, let's unlearn, let's care. That second poem was a poem that shares some very big and important secrets. And that first one, compassion, honey, and pickles and halcyon days, and asking all the important questions for all of us about peace. And coming to us, another member of the PEN International Women's Writers Committee, Tanya Tuma, has changed. Well, actually, this isn't that recent, yeah? She changed her publishing career to becoming a writer of novels. And she translates and writes a poem or two, which you will get to hear in the next minute or so. Since June of this year, Tanya is the president of Slovene PEN, and a very hardworking president, I want to add. Welcome, Tanya.
In memoriam, a sonnet. You now dwell in the sky of a moonlit night, like a silver star shining bright. Once you filled our hearts with your grace, my children, my joy, and my light. Deep were your wounds, greater your pain, on the thread between here and there. A single tear cannot follow its path. It knows not its source, nor its gain. All the words we did not say now wander unspoken in our brain, locked forever in the iron jail, lost to you, to us in vain. Our memories of you are your universe, as you in the field of silver stars immerse. Thank you.
Oh, that line, field of silver stars immerse. I've been sitting with that image in my heart for days. And I love that you answered the call to poem, and so beautifully. And we get to welcome a friend who has been with us, whom I've actually got to meet at our Congress in Manila, and who's come for many of our poetry events with us. Bolu Agoy, creative and academic, a writer, poet, critic, literary activist, editor, publisher, and teacher. Bolu is the president of PEN Nigeria. Welcome, Bolu.
Toast to love. The devil sits upon the throne, flanked by drunken dragons. Seas of blood sweeping ashore, sweeping remnants of humanity. The Red Sea soaring, roaring, song streaming, strong, streaming light. Roused by the sea roaring, thunderbolts drowning the voice of sanity. We rise, rising as one. Troubadours striking the heart of hate. 7 crowds camped on pavements with blood paved. Virus within, virus without. Life running helter-skelter. Setting fountains raining venom on patriots' heads. leaders sliding on vines like ice skating nestlings, nursing cage patriots fed on killer carrots, panting patriots told to hang on to death, to look up to death for perfect peace. But we can't but sing our song of love, not of hate. Even against a backdrop of blood, we can't but sing our song, secret song streaming live. The devil sits upon the throne, seated against a backdrop of blood, blood painting on communal canvas, native plagues feasting foreign friends breathing pandemic breath, killer clans striving to trash beauty, striving to trash the beauty of birth. But we can't but toast to life. We can't but toast to love. Though caged by pandemic, locked in a den by demons led, one death this day we owe ourselves. We can't but sing our song of love, not of hate. Thank you.
Yes, sing our song, streaming life, toasting to love. Ever and ever, I am so absolutely thrilled and impressed how our pen poets are just amazingly and uniquely able to hold polarities that lift our hearts and do not shy away from truth-telling. Yeah. And now, another return to the stage of the Women's Writers Committee poetry world, Gwendolyn Diaz Ridgway, and she herself is the coordinator of the Women's Writers Committee of Central Penn, Argentina. Gwendolyn writes fiction, essays, and poetry, is a professor of comparative literature, a mentor to aspiring writers, and conducts webinars on science and literature. Welcome, Gwendolyn.
Hello. My poem is a response to one that was written by two women in the Victorian era that did not feel that they were empowered to write with their own name. So I will first read the poem by these two Victorian women, giving them voice in this century. And then I will read my response to their poem called La Gioconda. Historic, sidelong, implicating eyes, a smile of velvet luster on the cheek, calm lips, the smile leads upward, hand that lies glowing and soft, the patience in its rest, of cruelty that waits and doth not seek for prey, a dusky forehead and a breast where twilight touches ripeness amorously. Behind her, crystal rocks, a sea and skies of evanescent blue on clouds and creek, landscape that shines suppressive in its zest for those vicissitudes by which men die. And inspired by particularly that last line, I composed my Gioconda, and I composed her in Spanish, which is the language of the Centro Penn, Argentina, that I represent. The title is Sonrisa de Gioconda. Santa Teresa no es, por cierto, pero tampoco ondula las caderas como Marilyn Monroe. ¿Será que sus abundantes curvas atraen el ojo lujurioso del otro que la cata como si fuera una gata o Salomé? Ella quisiera ser Circe por su poder de atraer con el magnético canto cuanta alma se le acerque para tejer con algas poemas de caracoles y palabras que atraen al lector su único señor. Atraparlo para después soltarlo con la sonrisa de Gioconda satisfecha de abordarlo sin comprometer su libertad. Pero hay días cuando prefiere el pelo de la medusa para clavarle los ojos asesinos a esos curiosos vecinos que la tratan de mala mujer Malinche, loca, Juana la loca, y solo quieren darle de beber esa pócima drogada para que duerma recatada en el seno del pudor ajeno, como la bella durmiente, para nunca despertar el qué dirán. Thank you.
Que dirán indeed. What will they say? Oh, I just love bad girl poetry. Thank you for speaking back across the ages and for having Circe and Saint Teresa and Marilyn Monroe in the same poem, and Malinche. That was thrilling. I feel serenaded in all my desire to be one of those women. Yeah. Que viva. Oh, this is, you guys, wait till you hear this next one too. Okay, I'm so happy to introduce again to us Bana Bedoun. She is a member of PEN Lebanon, a Lebanese poet and writer. Her first poetry book, The Guardian of Illusion, came out in 2013, followed by the short story Pizza Delivery in Beirut Noir. Since then, her poems have been published in many renowned literary magazines. Welcome, Bana.
Thank you. A Liquid Wall. It's a translated poem of mine from Arabic that is dedicated to the recent Lebanese uprising. I woke up in a dream. I walked for a long time. I met everyone I know. They were themselves and I was myself. I didn't dare ask, who were we then before? Is this dream of our own making, or are we wandering in someone else's dream in a land not ours? Our mouths were masked. It wasn't the virus trying to kill us, but an immense fog girding the air. They were tossing tear gas canisters and advancing through the fog toward us. We were their mirage and they ours. But it was something else that flowed between us, a wall of vapor that divided us. But the haze was deep and painful, like the rage that fathers breathe into our chests, like a blood stain of which all trace is lost, but whose imagined scent pervades the mind to the point of nausea. In the parking, I remember nothing but the green light that cast its aspect upon the place, and the rotating lights atop huge armored vehicles on the lookout for escapees. Sana returned to the square, the dust thickening beneath her eyes. She tries to explain with her bloodied hands. 5 rubber grenades went through her middle. It wasn't terror that clouded her gaze. It was something erratic, like those intermittent blanks in her voice. Her gaze left her eyes with difficulty, like her voice. The problem wasn't the fog, but with what we could see now with full clarity. Many returned that night with but a single eye. The darkness grew arms and legs. At the end of the road, we saw them rounding up those of us who were left and disappearing. Shout your name aloud, shout it, shout. May you wake up, may we wake up. When morning came, they swept the area clean. Among the ashes and the spent canisters of gas, they found the remains of so many eyes. They didn't return them to their owners. What happens to an eye separated from its mate? We close the eyes of the dead so as not to see their final look of astonishment that passes through us like a ghost, as though we didn't exist. But those scattered eyes continued to wander. Their gaze remained suspended in that place, like an eye doomed to eternal wakefulness. And no matter how much they tried to look away, that gaze was resurrected every time night fell over the place. They thought They were being chased by ghosts. They didn't know they were the ghosts. Thank you.
Oh boy. The privilege of getting to read everybody's work and live with everybody's work this last week has been absolutely phenomenal. Darkness grows arms and legs. Banna, this poem slays. It wakes and breaks us. Days resurrected every time night fell. Stunning, stunning work. I feel so incredibly blessed to be in the company of this group of poets. And the beloved next poet we welcome to the stage is Drajita Charna, poet, aphorist, holistic healer, loving flamenco and astrology. Drajita has lived and worked in Slovenia, Italy, Spain, and now Belgium. Another one, she speaks 5 languages and writes in many of them. Writing, she tells us, is her way of loving. Welcome, Drajita.
Daš v meni, odpadli listi kot mavrica jeseni. Temne podobe svetlob se vrivajo med moje vdihe, kot vonj žvepla v ustih, kot slina, grenka odvečna v časih mojih pričakovanj. Verzi mi sproti bežijo kot otrok na gugalnici. Ne ujamem še dobro deske, že znova je v zraku, z nogami kvišku. Da je zalet večji in odriv močnejši, ko se vračajo k zemlji. Na robu roba ležim, prepad z desne, kilometre globok. Ta previsna stena, na zemlji telo. In se borim za centimetre počasi, z voljo uma, da se umikam proč, proč od vseh koncev, ki ne nosijo začetkov, niti svetlobe. Padati, padati, padati. Bitke in bitke večnih koncev, temne podobe svetlob v grlu, v gležnjih, na ramah. Padati, padati, padati. Nekje mora biti dno koncev, nekje mora biti začetek, nekam se mora upreti luč. Dark semblances of light push into the air. I'm inhaling like a smell of sulfur in my mouth, like saliva, acrid, superfluous in moments of my expectations. Verses, as they came along, flee from myself like a child on a swing. No sooner have I caught the ball than she's anew in the air, her toes reaching upwards for the impulse to be greater, for the momentum to be stronger, as get feedback back to the ground. I am lying on the edge of the edge, the drop on my right, kilometers deep. And I'm struggling for a centimeter slowly, gathering my will to get away, away from all ends which bear no beginnings and no lights. Falling, falling, falling. Battles and battles of eternal ends. Dark semblances of light in my throat, in my ankles, on my shoulders. Falling, falling, falling. Someone, there must be a bottom to all the ends. Somewhere, there must be a beginning. Someone there must be a foothold for light. Thank you.
That poem literally casts a spell. It's entrancing and enchanting. And that rhythm of lift and fall, you bring us and then you bring us back, the edge of the edge. It almost makes a weather around us. Thanks. Our next poet, beloved to us all, Danson Kayana, is the president of Ugandan PEN, a member of the PEN International Board, which I'm so proud to say San Miguel PEN Center nominated him, and he won and has served us all just absolutely admirably. Danson writes poetry and children's stories and is really a very important ally to the Women's Writers Committee and to all our centers. Welcome, Danson.
I have two poems. Poem number 1, Gold from Uganda. It's dedicated to Peter Nazareth, a Ugandan novelist and professor of English at the University of Iowa. He is 81. In 1972, he was expelled from Uganda by dictator Idi Amin, but he remains committed to the country and to the people therein and thereout. So he's gold from Uganda. His is a pioneering spirit, for he wrote the nation into modernity, challenging sectarianism and declaring the brown hue another East African reality. His is a hawk eye that saw black bigots for who they were, destroyers of the country and enemies of all people, black, brown, or blue. His is a pan-human vision where he embraces every person irrespective of color, creed, or class, and connects the South with the North, the East with the West. His is a celestial heart that breathes life into humans, firing them off lofty heights of victory never imagined before. His is gold from Uganda, a life shining far and wide, illuminating the dark corners of humanity. Poem number 2, One Day We Shall Rebuild This Nation. It is dedicated to Milagros Socorro, a Venezuelan writer and journalist whom I had the privilege of meeting in Pune, India, Bina's country. One day we shall rebuild this nation. One day we shall rebuild this nation by giving power back to the people, power that the rulers have grabbed with guns and deep-rooted patronage. We shall restore dignity unto our people, that they may once again hold their heads high, these people whom the rulers hold in contempt, buying their votes for half a kilogram of sugar a household. We shall redeem Parliament from mediocrity and make it shine again the way it did years back when bills were debated into groundbreaking laws. We shall arrest corrupt magistrates and judges and try them in the courts they daily desecrate, for ever heard of justices whose rulings are neither truthful nor impartial, even where common sense dictates otherwise? One day, we shall be angry enough to mobilize our tattered hopes into a lethal blow to deal all the traitors we vote into office. One day, we shall painstakingly rebuild this nation and rid it of the leeches bleeding us to death. Thank you very much.
I know everybody felt that one, the thrilling urgency. This is a passionate voice. that can and will bring poetry and politics together to catalyze the alchemy of social change. Really proud to share a stage. Oh, great. All right. Next, we have our beloved Inga Gaile. Inga, hi. Inga is an award-winning Latvian poet. She is the president of Latvian Pen, prose writer, playwright, performance artist, and theater director. She explores with her unique brand of humor and insight inner states of being, her own experiences, the everyday lives of women and stigmatized groups of society, while always promoting equal rights. Welcome, Inga.
Hello, everyone. Es nolasīšu dzejoli Melleņu ievārījums, kuru ir iztulkojis Kāja Straumanis. I will read poem Blueberry Jam, which is translated to English by Kāja Straumanis. God grant a sale on blueberry jam. 15 minutes before a mother of 2 and almost nothing in the bank enters the store. The devil deducts the monthly card fee a minute before the mother of 2, who has an unclear social standing, a questionable lifestyle, no husband, can't really say what her deal is. The devil takes the money from her bank account. Not much, just €1 or 2. A second before this mother, who has 2 kids and unclear social status, pays for jam that God has put on sale today. The other shoppers in line are angels, kind and understanding. This mother feels so uncomfortable, but also courageously strong. I have children. I have a debit card. In this moment, I don't have blueberry jam, but I exist. Thank you.
Thank you. These poems, your poems somehow pierce our soul. They dig deep with delicate yet somehow fierce scenes that play out before our eyes, and we recognize ourselves and our times in the mirror of these poems. This is really wise woman work, and I'm grateful for it. Our next poet, Sylvia Leonor Sniedermanis, is also a member of Central Pen Argentina with our Gwendolyn, and she is also a member of the Women's Writers Committee, a professor of English literature at the Universidad Nacional de San Martín, and holds degrees in English literature and film studies, and is a marvelous and frequent visitor to our Women's Writers Poetry stage. Welcome, Sylvia.
I am delighted once again to be here. This poem is called Borders, Fronteras in Spanish, and it starts with a story of creation, the earth populated by 2 people, Adam and Eve. Coincidentally, the Jewish world and the world at large are now celebrating Rosh Hashanah, the Genesis, Bereshit, the world without borders. 1. El mundo primigenio, Adán y Eva, la pradera, el bosque, el agua, el jardín, la abundancia, la luz, la oscuridad, la noche y el día, todo para descubrir, todo de ellos, criaturas sin historia, necesitan hacerla, pero ahora el mundo es uno, nada lo delimita, agua, continente, cielo, aunados en la creación de un tiempo y un espacio difícil de entender, el comienzo sin fronteras. 2. Fronteras, ¿de dónde vendrán? Babel disgrega, palabras, significados que dividen a la humanidad, lenguas que nos hablan y dan forma a la conciencia, a las percepciones, crean distancias, límites, fronteras que separan, dividen, poder que aniquila, y el hombre que queda atrapado entre esas fronteras, donde nada es igual, donde todo se transforma, donde Adán y Eva ya son otros, muchos otros, hijos de Caín, todos inmigrantes de una misma tierra. 3. Muros que protegen y atrapan, avanzar y detenerse. Muros que dividen, separan razas, géneros, culturas, separan a los ricos de los pobres. Necesito cruzar, quiero saltar este muro como el de Troya, impenetrable. Poseidón y Apolo, víctimas de ayer y de hoy. ¿Dónde está el puente? Lo necesito para seguir buscando mi destino, pero tengo miedo y la frontera me ahoga, me paraliza, me impide mirar hacia adelante y encontrar el camino. ¿Cuál es mi frontera? ¿Mi barrio? ¿Mi casa? ¿Mis paredes? ¿Mi piel? La distancia me impulsa a buscar amor. Me toco, me acaricio. Siento la tibieza de mi cuerpo, que busca puentes imposibles de cruzar. No me atrevo a acercarme a la puerta. Si yo puedo estar aquí, viva, ¿para qué voy a seguir? Otro muro. El visible me impide seguir. El invisible me impide sentir. La frontera la siento, la palpo, la pared, la puerta que se cierra, la ventana que tiene rejas imposibles de atravesar. El deseo de cruzar me intima. No soy indiferente. Thank you very much.
Oh, I love how this poem telescopes the eternal into right now and invites us to turn borders into bridges and walls to windows, because that is exactly the goal of this event and the magic of poem. All right, bringing us on home as ever and wonderfully, Stella Nyanzi tells us she is radical queer feminist from Uganda with a passion for human rights, social justice, and freedom. Stella, our famous and infamous Ugandan poet, academic activist, was imprisoned for posting poems on Facebook critical of the president of Uganda. Her work embodies the power of the poem, and her passion and clarity will complete our program today. Welcome, Stella.
A brief history of staying in touch. A poem dedicated to my children's generation. Short, precise words sent across miles. We also wrote on blue aerograms and licked stamps to stick on with smiles. All this we did to stay in touch. Distance did not forbid sharing our stories that much. We also had the telefax, which we mostly picked at the post office. The wealthy paid an annual tax for a mailbox at the post office. All this we did to stay in touch. Distance did not forbid sharing our stories that much. These days we have electronic mail, instantly shared through the World Wide Web. Previously, we relied on only snail mail, which came by sea, road, air, cab. All this we do to stay in touch. Distance does not forbid sharing our stories much. Thank you.
And thank you, Stella, for reminding us that we have always, always sought to deal with distance, and that the poet's job, as you just so beautifully did, is to collapse the distances between us and bring us together. And this is something that all our poets did for us today. So our amazing sister has sung us on home, and here we come full circle for poetry as passionate, vibrant, powerful witness that unites us and holds us together and keeps us strong. What a fantastic experience. I thank you. We thank you, our marvelous poets, for your generous gifts and your dedication, your work, and your time. And we thank you, our audience, for sharing this poetry together, because now more than ever, it matters to raise our voices with skill, passion, and commitment. But without the recipient of the gift of voice, the circle of having our voices in the world is never completed without you, our audience. And all of us, all the poets, thank with all our hearts our technical director, Tina Bika, and our genius Zoom technicians, Portia Vanderplant-Jones and Daria Kinter, whose patience, knowledge, and kindness make these phenomenal, sweet, and smooth global poetry Zooms possible and fabulous. And everything we do, we know we owe a debt of gratitude to our tireless Olha Mukta, who manages with humor, sweetness, and grace to keep a lot of balls in the air for all of us all the time. So for our guest today at Penn, we invite you to join us in our efforts. Find your pen and befriend our mother organization, Penn International. For more information on Penn, we have posted, or we're going to post right now, the Penn International website, the San Miguel Penn website, and my email. And the link to please consider donating to Penn International, because as we know, we must be the ones to keep our literary freedom strong all over the world. It is on us. It is on us. And we're here to say, yes, we are showing up and ready. And we hope that you will join us if you have not already. And now I invite the absolutely amazing chair of the Women's Writers Committee, the extraordinary, multi-talented Zoe Rodriguez, will come and address us to help close our gathering. Welcome, Zoe.
Hello all. Thank you so much, Judith, for leading that wonderful poetry reading session. And thank you, of course, to the poets. I'm so pleased it's recorded because I want to hear it all over again. And I particularly want to thank Hamed for joining us when his country is in such a crisis, and for reading that incredibly powerful poem at the beginning of our session. I think we are all here in solidarity with the women writers and with our Penn members who are in Afghanistan now, and we hope for their safety. I thank Judith. She is amazing and brings such energy to these sessions and such joy. I also want to thank, of course, Tina Bika. You're amazing. I've seen you before do your work in making poets present themselves so well. I want to thank Portia, who's come back and joined us and helped with the technical end of this. And thank you again to the Women Writers Committee members who've helped with all the planning and the thinking behind these sessions. Lucina, Judith, Tanya, Kathleen, Nisha, Sarah. Thank you. And thank you everybody for coming and attending. I mean, we're coming virtually. I agree with Judith. Our Penn International needs our support more than ever. If you can dip into your pocket and help however you can, I'm sure every bit is appreciated. Me, myself, I've done that. I've also bought the Moomin Top, which is a Penn fundraiser, done in partnership with the Moomin Foundation. It was fun watching it track across the world through COVID rather slowly, but still it's here with me. So thank you all for spending some time with us. Poets, I wanted to say, you know, the rhythm of English was wonderful and hearing the imagery and the words, but then to hear the beautiful music of different languages, it's unifying, it's uplifting, and it's wonderful. Thank you all again. The Women Writers Committee will be back in touch soon about our next sessions, including the next poetry session. Judith, again, thank you to you.
It's our superpower. Poetry and writing, it's our superpower. And I just feel so privileged to be part of all of this. Let's bring all our poets back on stage for everyone to see and appreciate and applaud and thank. Oh, marvelous, 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 marvelous. Full of the beauty of our shared voices raised in passionate global witness. We thank you. We say adios, a bientôt, farewell. And we close staying in touch by remembering the women journalists of Afghanistan and ask that you join us and take action to make that possible. And I'm going to invite all our poets, I know this doesn't work on Zoom, but it's so much fun, to say goodbye in your own home language. Let's see how many languages we can hear at once as we wave goodbye and say thank you. And it'll be on your screen. Visit that website, buy one of those prints. Bye-bye. Adios.
Adios. Yes.
That was great.
Fabulous. Fabulous.
Thank you, everybody.
Hey, Viva. Hey, Viva.
Thank you. Thank you.
Judith, thank you. Thank you so much.
Thank you,
Tina.
Thank
you, Judith.
Very
Mala.
much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, all the poets. I love all of you.
Great work.
Wonderful.
Our best ever, you guys, our best ever. Thank you so much. And Zoe, darling, you are a trooper, and good night.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Good night,
To all
Zoe.
of you.
What a privilege to get to do this with you guys.
No, it was great. Thank you so much. It was so good.
It was really great.
Hasta luego, darlings.
Hasta luego.
Hasta luego.
Hasta luego.
Thank you, Judith. Thank you very much, Judith.
Thank you, Judith. Thank you,
for all
Tina.
your work.
Thank you.
Good night.
Good night.
Good night.
Good night.
Good night.
Have a good day. Bonne journée.
Bye. I'm going to
Around
end
the world. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye, Judith. Thank you.